Now, in England, the spread of the more infectious Delta variant led authorities to delay the country's planned reopening by 4 weeks. And now officials are stepping up vaccinations. Starting tomorrow, anyone 18 and over is eligible to get the shot. Retail, meantime, is anxiously awaiting the reopening, as you can imagine. The gradual easing of restrictions in April led to a rise in sales. The British Retail Consortium said supermarkets and high streets reported a 10% increase last month. That's compared to May 2019. James Daunt is the CEO of Barnes & Noble and Waterstones. He joins me now. James, great to have you on the show. Before we start talking about opening and COVID, I really want to get your takes on really our top story of the day today and the topic du jour, and that is Morgan Stanley's CEO's comments regarding the return to office, his return to office plan, which he said, if you can go to a restaurant in New York City, well, you can come into the office. Where do you stand on this?
Well, from the perspective of a retailer with plenty of stores in locations with office workers, dependent upon office workers, obviously I welcome that greatly. I think probably in the narrow sense of running my own company, I probably am not. I'm towards the softer end of I think we need to understand how individuals like working, how teams interact best, and that will vary very much from industry to industry and office to office. I wouldn't for a second presume to know how Morgan Stanley or others of that ilk should best run their businesses.
That's fantastic. No, it's a hybrid of sorts. Thank you very much. Let's talk then about the UK. The Prime Minister has decided, as we were just telling our viewers, really to delay the next stage of opening. You've been there. How difficult do you think it is for those businesses who have been planning to open and they're being told, hang in there, a few more weeks?
It is really difficult. It doesn't impact us because we have our stores open again. But if you're in hospitalities, pubs, restaurants and things, and you're gearing yourself up to really, you've got the staff there, you've invested in all of the food and the other things that you need to sell, and it's really tough. And we've been through a terrible year.
It's been a tough year. Stores are open. I went past your store yesterday in Marylebone. It's always great. How has it been for business since lockdown lifted? I know many took to reading. I was one of those. Are you seeing strong sales?
To be honest, as booksellers, we have had this silver lining of the fact that so many people have been reading through the lockdown periods and the pandemic generally, and not just books, the other things that we sell alongside books, educational toys, board games, puzzles, the things you find in a bookshop. And so we have actually really, particularly once we've had our shops open again, found trade very buoyant, which is for which I'm very grateful.
That's fantastic. So what's your kind of strategy? What's your long-term view here, James? I mean, because how have you had to adapt? And I'm keen to know how your US market, how that has been.
Very different from the UK to the US. The US obviously kept itself open almost entirely through this period, and therefore it's been very much easier. I think the bigger concern for us as physical retailers, well, we have an online site and that's done extremely well, but we are, our souls are embedded in our retail shops, in the physical business. And for that, obviously, we're now confronting the ever increasing preponderance of online retailers, Amazon in particular. And how are we, not just us as booksellers, but how are our neighbours and fellow shopkeepers going to keep going when so many of it are finding it impossible and difficult? But I think right now we're feeling pretty confident. We've reopened, we've got our shops full of people. And of course, if you're a retailer that has stayed open, you are benefiting as well as fearful of the consequences of what's going on with your neighbours. Yeah,
and this brings me really to a point that I think touches many of the retailers here in the UK and right around the world is, we heard over the weekend, well, a couple of days ago, in fact, G7 and the G7 tax deal that says that in principle, multinational companies have to pay a minimum of at least 50% in each country they operate. Where do you stand on this? Do you think this finally is a level playing field?
It's certainly not a level playing field, but it's a small step towards one. And I certainly believe, we, all of us, whether individually or as corporations and companies, need to pay our fair share of tax. And that isn't the case in many ways. And I think it is actually beholden upon our political masters to sort this out. It's a small step forward. It's definitely a positive step forward, but we do need a level playing field, and that we're not remotely close to getting at the moment.
Okay. Step in the right direction, at least. James Daunt, CEO of Barnes & Noble and Waterstones. Thanks very much, James. Great to see you.
Thank you.
Now.